Okay. Good evening, friends. Just give me 1 minute. I just need to put. Okay. So let us begin. I had given you one question yesterday. Renal synthesis forms the crux of geographical studies. So I hope you tried that question, and we'll talk about how this question should have been written. And I think how to write this question? कोई बता सकता है मुझे? Anyone? Start with regional synthesis, okay. Can we say that there were two parts here? One was regional synthesis and second was crux of geographical studies. There were two parts in this question, and इसमें कुछ नहीं करना था यार. Throughout our life we have done. So here there is regional synthesis and here there is crux of geographical studies. यही करना था. This is what we had to do. Hence proved. This is something like this what we have to do. Tell me yes or no. And if I talk about, just if I break up the crux of geographical studies, tell me, can we say crux of geographical studies are number of things? One important aspect of crux of geographical studies is the phenomena of it is an integrative science. Second important aspect is geography is essentially a spatial science. It is integrative science, it is spatial science. In fact, if we talk about geography, what it essentially integrates, अगर मैं इसमें जाऊँ, so number of things are there which geography tries to integrate. One important aspect of geography is environmental studies. Another important aspect of study of geography is human environment relationship studies. ठीक है. Then what is other aspect of spatial science here is it is regional science. It is included there. What else we can say is a very important aspect of geography. Very important aspect of geography is that it also includes not only space, it has also one important element, that is temporal studies. Space and time are part and parcel of geography. ठीक है. So these are these we can say they are the crux of geographical studies. Now, can we prove that regional synthesis includes all of these? Yes or no? Tell me. Does regional synthesis include all of these? Yesterday only we saw how within regional synthesis all these aspects of geography are covered. So यही प्रूव करना था. You could have taken any framework, like for example अगर मैं इसको लिख रहा होता this answer, I would start my answer with an introduction and I would say geography is an integrative and spatial or integrative science. 1 minute. Is an integrative science which focuses on study of environment and its relationship with humans in space and time. In space and time. So have we included all the aspects? It is integrative environment studies and relationship of environment with humans, and also it studies in space and time. So एक statement में हमने सारी चीज़ों को include कर दिया, and we started with that this is the crux of geography. ठीक है. So I would second statement इसी paragraph में ही लिखो, and you say that it has been claimed that regional synthesis includes all these and thus is the best approach to study geography. ठीक है. So it has been claimed that it is the best method or approach to study geography. Approach मत लिखो, best method लिख दो यहाँ पर, because we have claimed that it is method to study geography. ठीक है. After this, I just have to prove that what I am saying. Can I say if I am trying to prove the best one can be, I can start with some quotes from Hettner or something like that, but the best would be the one which we studied yesterday, BJL Berry. Geographical matrix. Yes or no? So I'll just use his geographical matrix to show how regional synthesis includes all these aspects of study. ठीक है. बस वो जो कल हमने डिस्कशन किया था, यू कीप ऑन हैव टू राइट दैट एंड यू कीप ऑन हैव टू आंसर दैट. सो जब लिखा कि फॉर एग्जांपल आई विल टॉक अबाउट ज्योग्राफिकल मैट्रिक्स एंड आई विल से दैट रोज व्हेन वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट, सो इन रोज वी स्टडी बेसिकली systematic geography, and within systematic geography each of these rows study what systematic elements or geographical elements systematically they are studying, and you'll talk about that. Like for example, you'll give example physical geography or human geography, or each of the sub parts of physical geography or human geography can be studied there, and thus it within regional synthesis we study. Just 1 minute. ओके, सो इसमें प्रूफ कैसे करेंगे? फर्स्ट आई विल टॉक अबाउट व्हाट BJL Berry talked about. What is geographical synthesis? I'll draw his geographical matrix को draw करूँगा, and then I will show that how, if I talk about, if I study row for example, So rows we are doing what? Systematic study of geographical elements. Geographical elements. If we are studying the columns, we are essentially talking about regional studies, and here within regional studies we are studying at various hierarchical levels. The regions are being studied. Okay, so that basically you can definitely talk about. Also you talk about the third aspect, that how there is all these informations are collected in time. That means we can compare present time with past periods, and thus also know about the history of area concerned. So it also includes the temporal studies. ठीक है, सो ये तीनों पॉइंट्स को प्रूव करके एंड फाइनली इन द कंक्लूजन I will talk about essentially that geography has always witnessed presence of several contrasting viewpoints which sometime also developed as dualism and dichotomy. Thus, aim of geography has always been to achieve synthesis of contrasting viewpoints. Regional synthesis as shown above fulfills this objective and thus can rightly be claimed as crux of geographical studies. ठीक है, समझ में आ गया कैसे लिखना है? What you people were saying, it was something like more like you have already given content and you just want to put that content and bus. But you have to frame your answer according to the question. You have to make it more tailor made. What is the demand of the question? उसके हिसाब से लिखना है. Are we clear about this? Tell me fast so that I can continue with our today's topic, which is very, very important. and this is quantitative revolution. Quantitative revolution. Now, just before we talk about quantitative revolution, it would be very good for us to talk few things about the philosophy of logical positivism. Because then we will be in a better position to ultimately understand what is quantitative revolution. Okay? So that is first thing what we are going to talk about. It is logical positivism. So you can see positivism and logical positivism हमारे content में भी, that is the first thing that we are going to talk about. And I will like you to write few things about that. With this part, this which I am showing now, it is not given in your material. So let us write few things about logical positivism. So logical positivism was a philosophy. Basically what it was a philosophy which was, we can say, stricter version of philosophy of positivism. Philosophy of positivism given by Auguste Comte. You see, Auguste Comte in 1829. 1829. Okay. And he provided a book where he discussed cours de philosophie positive. Positive. So here he has given this philosophy of positivism, and we are saying logical positivism was stricter version of a new version, a more strict version of this philosophy of positivism. So first we will talk about what was the essence of philosophy of positivism. Then we'll talk about logical positivism. So positivism, philosophy of positivism. So in philosophy of positivism, Auguste Comte provided 5 postulates of scientific methods. So what he is providing? He provides 5 postulates of scientific method. And what are these 5 postulates? First postulate is reality. So you write, first postulate was reality. Reality. So knowledge should be guaranteed by direct experience of immediate reality. There are no abstract forces outside direct experience. So what he is simply trying to say, that knowledge should be based upon the directly seen reality, something which can be measured, something which we can directly observed, observable reality. Okay, that means here what in other words he is trying to say, that knowledge is based upon which type of reality? Objective reality. It is based upon objective reality. Okay. So there are no abstract forces outside direct experience. So it should be basically based upon direct seen or directly experienced reality. So mainly it is objective reality. So that is first tenet of positivism. Then second important tenet, postulates of positivism, is certainty. Certainty. So what is the aspect of certainty? Certainty says that the scientific knowledge is available, or unity of scientific method which guarantees accessibility to all scientists and ensures that replicability of their observations. Okay. So it is mainly about what? Scientific unity of the scientific method. So the results, certainty का simply मतलब है कि results which are obtained through scientific method are universally applicable. Universally applicable. So can you understand? I gave you that example of pen. If I drop it anywhere, even in the past histories, it would always go down. So the result that we are getting, essentially that result is what? It should be universally applicable. Anyone can test that reality. Anyone can study that reality and come to conclusions. Okay? So that is basically the case of certainty. So ensure replicability of their observations, accessibility to all scientists. That means anyone can ultimately test, validate these claims. Third, precision. Precision. So precision may basically what it talks about, that scientific method objective is to reach universal generalizations in the form of models, theories and laws. Models, theories and laws. So that is the case of scientific method. So construction of theories whose results can be tested. So again, universal generalizations of models, theories and laws. And very important aspect of these models and theories is that they can be validated. So that is another aspect. Then utility. Utility. So if you talk about all knowledge should have practical utility, practical utility. So it should be like useful to the society. That means it should be useful to the society. So that is the point of utility. And the fifth point is relatively. Relativity, in fact. Relativity. So what is the aspect of relativity? Relativity simply says that knowledge, all knowledge is incomplete. Is incomplete because knowledge is endless. So see, scientific knowledge is unfinished and relative. Scientific progress is paralleled by social progress. Okay, so all knowledge is incomplete. And why? Because knowledge is endless, is incomplete and relative. It is relative as well. So it is relative to scientific progress. Scientific progress. I'll give you one example. Do you remember continental drift theory? याद है? Theory of continental drift given by Wegener. Yes or no? And do you remember that Wegener's theory was essentially rejected? Rejected. And what was the reason, what we give? One of the reasons that we gave for the rejection of his theory, we said that his theory was way ahead of its times. Do you remember? Because at that time the understanding of the interior forces was very limited. So the social progress, यहाँ पे मैंने साइंटिफिक प्रोग्रेस लिख दिया, यहाँ पे सोशल होना चाहिए था. So social progress which had happened, social and technological progress which had occurred, it was limited. And that is why people could not relate with what Wegener was talking about. They could more relate with what catastrophic people were talking about, but they couldn't relate with what Wegener was talking about, continents moving. Nobody could contemplate that continents could also move. They could also float. Because social progress was basically was what? That means it was limited, and thus his idea was way ahead of its time and people rejected that idea. But we saw that after a few decades, almost after 4 decades, again his ideas got recognition, because by that time social progress reached to the level where Wegener was in 1912. Okay? So this is what the last point of relativity is talking about. That means when we are talking about knowledge today, we claim today that this is truth, this is science, but we don't know exactly that how much our knowledge will improve in future. We are talking today, we are developing quantum physics, and in quantum physics everything is interconnected to each other. Maybe many things which today we are laughing on and we totally reject them as nonsense. Maybe there is validity to all of those things and we just don't understand. If somebody comes in front of you and says that I have seen a ghost, what will you do? Will you believe that person? भूत देखा है. Tell me, will you believe that person? Majority of people will, particularly educated people, they would not believe because they have been trained in a particular way. Their society believes has a particular type of belief system. Village में जाके बोलोगे तो their belief system is different. Maybe their people will accept. But if you talk about the urban society which has been ultimately trained in a particular way, socialized in a particular way, they would not believe. ठीक है. So at this point of time, our level of knowledge is that we will not believe. But maybe in future we will believe. Maybe there are ideas which says even in physics and metaphysics, if you go, so they would say that actually it all depends upon the how the matter is circulating. So our mind has vibrations. ठीक है. And there is frequency of vibration which is taking place. Actually, there are many worlds which exist, and each of these worlds are just vibrating at different frequency levels. And what is happening? Sometimes our state of mind is that it is vibrating in a different frequency. And when it happens, we tend to see the elements of other world, ठीक है, which are vibrating in that frequency levels. ठीक है. This is one of the theories, or not theory, it is a hypothesis which has been provided. Maybe this hypothesis we would be able to prove in future. How do you know? So this is what Comte is talking about. He is saying that whatever knowledge we have today, it is very relative and incomplete. And it would keep on increasing as society progresses, as our technology progresses. ठीक है. Yes, concept of parallel space. So that is what is the idea of positivism. Can you see, although the idea of positivism of Comte, he propounded this positivistic idea of his, and here he talks about how scientific method is the best method. But in the last point, tell me, doesn't he gives a kind of space to other ideas as well? Yes or no? In his point of relativity, is he giving space to other viewpoints as well? Obviously, he is giving. And see, you will be finding that this is actually the hardcore truth. Always you will find that the people who were the original propounders of the concept, they will never be so much rigid. ठीक है. Because they actually framed the concept, they worked for the concept, and thus they saw both ends, both viewpoints, while actually they were working. Later people, when they will come, what they would do? Later people will simply, because उन्होंने develop नहीं किया है, they got it just as a heritage. And again, what will happen? They don't understand it properly. So for them, that would become like religion. For them, those words would be taken in more absolute sense. ठीक है. So same thing happened later on with logical positivism. So logical positivism was born out of this philosophy of positivism given by Auguste Comte. And almost a century later, in 1930s, logical positivism was born, as Vienna Circle. So number of scholars, they used to meet in Vienna and they adopted these ideas. Basically समझ सकते हो majority of these scholars would have been, most of these scholars would have been belonging to humanities, because these were the people who were ultimately being mistreated in the academics. Their status was low. So they were very clear that we have to develop more the science. Social sciences should also develop and get status of the science. So this group of scholars, they came to be very famously known as the Vienna Circle, because they used to have their meetings in Vienna. And the idea which was born, the philosophy which was born, and it became a kind of movement in academics. It was essentially logical positivism, and it didn't only affect the social sciences. There were a number of natural scientists also who were involved as a part of the Vienna Circle. And it also affected so many other disciplines. Like we'll see that in geomorphology, we have already seen that how after 1930s process paradigm started in geomorphology. So it tried to become more quantitative. Okay? So that is basically the idea of logical positivism. As we said, it was what? It was a more stricter version of the positivistic idea. So the Vienna Circle of 1930s took major strides in the development of positivism. In the late 30s, some of its protagonists went to US and influenced the positivistic school in that country. So logical positivism includes 3 other doctrines. So within logical positivism, there are 3 other doctrines are included. ठीक है, अब देखो 5 postulates था. Earlier it was postulates. Now they have become doctrines. Can you see the why I said that it was more stricter version, more extreme version? First was scienticism. Scientism. So scientism, the positivist method is the only true method of obtaining knowledge. Other methods lack relevance because they cannot be verified. Okay? So what scientism says, that positivist method is the only true method of study. Other methods cannot be verified and thus cannot lead to development of science. Cannot lead to development of science. So that was basically the idea of scienticism. Anything which you cannot verify is basically what? It is not a reality. So according to this idea, anything which cannot be verified is not a reality. Tell me, can you verify emotions? Can you verify emotions? It is very difficult. I don't know about you, but I have many times, particularly in my school days, I have faked my emotions and fooled many of the teachers when I don't used to do my homework and go to school, and I was like, so much problem was there, ma'am, and like this. So again, I have so many times fooled teachers. So it is very difficult to actually verify emotions of the people. So that is one thing they are talking about. But does this means that if you cannot verify something, does this means that it is non-reality? Does this means that it is non-reality? I don't think so. Very clearly, it is also what? It is reality. And for individuals, for people, that reality is very true. Many times you might have seen that you wake up after seeing a dream, and that might be a good dream or a very bad dream or a very emotional dream, whatever. But have you felt that that dream is there with you throughout the day? It ultimately influences your mood, it ultimately influences how you behave. That dream was a non-reality. In real world, it never happened. But for me, it was actually a reality. And it affected my entire day. Maybe it can affect, some dreams can affect even longer. So how you can say that they are fully non-reality? They are affecting people. These emotions, these value systems. US elections are going on, and one of the rallies of Trump, which was there, one of the reporter went and talked to the people, and it was so much funny. It was so much funny, and it was like that there is, you will understand that people have their own value system, and on the basis of that value system, they justify many things, which they themselves sometimes know that it is not true. But for them, what was more important? They themselves know that it is factually untrue, but for them, more important was their value system. ठीक है, क्लास के बाद मुझे याद दिलाना, I'll share that video with you. It was very funny. So again, if you talk about, that is what the first element is, scientism. Then scientific reliability. So logical positivism provides the method of finding rational solution to all problems. The aspect was scientific reliability. And video should be working, yeah, video is working. Because here there is, the stream is normal. Okay. So scientific reliability. So scientific reliability, what it simply says, that logical positivism provides method for finding rational solution to all problems. So it is logical positivism, what it does, it provides method of finding logical solutions to all problems. ठीक है. So there is scientific reliability. That means that any type of problem which exists can be solved using logic. इसका सिंपली मतलब क्या है? Any problem can be solved using logic. Can be solved using logic. ठीक है. Again, it is an extreme statement because there are so many other problems which cannot be solved using logic. It is very difficult to solve them with logic. And logic actually is also very relative. A different society would have a different way of thinking, a different logic. You all are part of, you all are studying general studies. So now very good thing is there is paper 4 in your syllabus. So you must be aware about how the ethical reasoning can vary in space and time. Ethical logics can be different. So again, we can say that it would be able to solve some of the problems, no doubt. But if we talk about all the problems, again, it is questionable, but that was basically the idea of logical positivism, that any type of such issues can be solved. Then, value freedom. Scientific judgments are objective, independent of moral or political constraints. Scientific judgments are objective. They are independent of moral or political constraints. Moral or political constraints. ठीक है. So that is another aspect, that there is always freedom from the values. That means, it simply means that in scientific studies, what you have to do, science exclude subjective reality. Subjective reality. Can you see this third? If you talk about third point, value freedom, isn't it more like opposite to the point 5 of positivism? Yes or no? The point of relativity, which was one of the essence of the real positivism, which was propounded by Comte. So value freedom, the basic idea here was of value freedom. Why they wanted this value freedoms and so much objectivity, logical positivism group, they believed that much of the subjectivity which arises in social sciences, it was a result of the fact that if you talk about the social sciences were expressed in language, and if you look into majority of the language, like particularly Latin based languages, etc., Aryan languages, which were basically, you will be finding that most of them have one word has variety of meanings, and these variety of meanings bring what? Lots of subjectivity into what is being said. So same statement can be interpreted in different manner by different people who are reading them. ठीक है? And that is why this group was very clearly in favor of reducing the amount of language which was to be used. For them, the language of science was what? It was symbolic in nature. More symbolic language. It should be quantification, quantified. For example, if I say 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, tell me, is there any subjectivity in this statement? Yes or no? 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. So there are two statements. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. And same statement if I say that girls group and boys group, if work together, can achieve the day's target. Which of these statements is more objective and there is less confusion? Obviously the first statement. Okay? So can you understand why they were in favor of quantification? Why they were talking about quantification and why this revolution which ultimately started, why it was named as quantitative revolution? What's on my? Because logical positivism was all for objectivity. And they wanted to reduce the language part of studies, because for them language was creating that subjectivity, because one word can have variety of meanings, synonyms, and thus basically one of the best way to achieve this objectivity was to quantify. They even tried to quantify human beings. We'll see. Okay? So that is the basic idea of logical positivism. So logical positivism, if I ask you, logical positivism is which of the viewpoint of science? It believes science to be in subject matter or methodology. According to logical positivism, science lies in subject matter or methodology. सब के सब गलत, एक भी सही नहीं है. शर्म आनी चाहिए तुम लोगों को. It is obviously methodology, yaar. It is very clearly methodology. ठीक है. Pranit is asking if knowledge is endless, then how can we quantify it? Knowledge is endless, no doubt, but there is also knowledge we know. Whatever knowledge we know, that is, we have to quantify. It is based upon assumptions. Simply you have to understand. There is no doubt that endless knowledge, so many aspects are there which we do not know, and we don't even have method to quantify that. But this is the thing, that is how they were trying to show. That is what is the basis of science. And they were trying to apply the methods of physical world to human world. And that is why all the criticism arose later on. This is where the problem was there. No doubt what they were saying was very, very correct in terms of the physical world. It can be applied to physical world. Okay? But when it comes to human world is very dynamic, and this is what we'll see. This is where the problem arose later on in quantitative revolution. Okay? Let us talk about quantitative revolution. So here in quantitative revolution, we'll be talking about number of things. In fact, you know, quantitative revolution में एक question भी पूछा है UPSC ने. Very, very good question. This was the question which was asked. कब आया था ये? 2016 और 17 में आया है. Trace the origin and progress of quantitative revolution in geography and bring out its merits and demerits. Bring out its merits and demerits. 2016 में आया. ठीक है. So same thing here we are going to talk about. Yes, it was a 20 marker. So here we'll talk about the introduction, that is what was the basic conception of quantitative revolution. Then we'll talk about the origin of quantitative revolution, that is how it originated, what were the factors which led to origin of quantitative revolution. Then third thing we'll talk about is progress or development of quantitative revolution. That means we'll talk about the phases of development. So here we'll talk about the phases of development then we'll talk about that how it developed, and we'll talk about the case of shortcomings, or we'll do the critical analysis of how it has developed. ठीक है? So that is what we'll be talking about. So origin and progress. So you see, the radical transformation of the spirit and purpose which geography, particularly the Anglo-American geography, very important point, because much of the quantitative revolution popularity was limited to where? It was limited to the Anglo-America. Anglo-America is Britain and US, Canada, all these areas. So Anglo-American geography underwent in the decades of 1950s and 60s is referred to as quantitative revolution. So quantitative revolution was what? It was radical transformation of the spirit and purpose of geography. And what it involved? It involved widespread adoption of statistical and mathematical techniques, as well as abstract models and theories. In the process, what happened? The traditional geography was, why we are calling it as new? Why we are calling it as transformation? Because the old geography was which type? Have we seen that the old geography was mostly ideographic or regional? Yes or no? So, in the process, old ideographic geography with its focus on areal differentiation was replaced by a geographical discipline which was distinctly nomothetic. So, the new geography which developed, it was essentially what? It was at least trying to show that it was a science. It was more systematic. Such a new geography was based upon positivistic foundations with its search for universal models and theories. Okay. So, this transformation in geography was termed as quantitative revolution. You can very clearly understand why it would have been termed as quantitative revolution, because during this period everything was tried to be quantified, to be made objective, so that scientific methods can be used in study of geography. And even in human geography they tried to quantify everything. That is why this period came to be referred to be known as the quantitative revolution. Although some geographers have varied, and some geographers said that rather than quantitative revolution, this period should have been known as or named as theoretical revolution. Why theoretical revolution? Because what was the most important key foundations which occurred in the quantitative revolution, which still remain? The most important thing which was added during quantitative revolution was the theories. Before quantitative revolution, geography, particularly human geography, was non-theoretical. There were no theories which existed in human geography. But with the advent of quantitative revolution, several theories, models were imported and somewhat developed within geography. So, geography distinctly became what? Theoretical. And this was the main contribution of quantitative revolution. That is why some argue that it should not have been named as quantitative revolution, it should have been named as theoretical revolution. Okay? But can you understand the spirit of what quantitative revolution was? Can you understand? It was essentially to make geography a objective science. And if you talk about, one way was to adopt a approach method through which it can become objective science, or it can get the status of science, and it was the positivistic method. So they wanted to make everything objective and ultimately also reach to universal generalizations in the form of models, theories and laws. That was the spirit of quantitative revolution. Okay? Now let us talk about the origin of quantitative revolution. So if I talk about the origin of quantitative revolution, tell me, can I say that there is here lying geographical academic environment or we can say geography academic environment. Yes or no? So tell me, if something is changing in the discipline of geography, will the academic environment of geography as a discipline, will it have a role to play in that change? Yes or no? Tell me fast. Will it have a role to play in this change? Obviously hoga. Also, can I say this geography academic environment is essentially part and parcel of the academic environment. There is university environment, there is academic environment. ठीक है. So geography is in turn part and parcel of a bigger academic environment. ये बात समझ में आई? फॉर एग्जाम्पल ज्योग्राफी को अगर हम देखें तो इट इज बेसिकली व्हाट, इट इज अ सब ब्रांच विद इन अ यूनिवर्सिटी. So there is a bigger academic environment. And tell me, this in turn can I say is part of the socio-cultural environment? Yes or no? So I would say here, इसको थोड़ा चेंज करते हैं, डिसिप्लिन ऑफ ज्योग्राफी. Discipline of geography, and discipline of geography is surrounded by academic environment within geography, then there is overall academic environment, then there is socio-cultural environment. Tell me, if a change is working, can I say these are working as like systems and subsystems? Yes or no? So if there is some change in society taking place, will it have impact on the discipline of geography? Yes or no? Will it impact the discipline of geography? Yes, it will impact. Will it impact academic environment? Yes, it would impact academic environment. ठीक है ना? If there is some change in academic environment, it is also going to affect discipline of geography. If there is change in the academic environment within geography, for example, within geographical academic environment, suppose there is new leaders rising, new pioneer scholars are rising, will they affect the discipline of geography? Will they bring change in the discipline of geography? Yes, they would change. So can I say कि अगर मुझे origin याद रखना है of quantitative revolution, and tell me, can I apply this same framework for origin of any of the approaches? Suppose I have to talk about humanism, behavioralism, behavioral approach, humanistic approach, or radical approach, welfare approach, environmentalist approach. Can I say कि यही 3 changes होंगे which will bring the, which would have given rise to such? Yes or no? Obviously yes. ठीक है. इसको अगर मैं दूसरे तरीके से तुम्हें दिखाऊं सिस्टम्स के हिसाब से, तो सपोज देयर इज, आई एम सेइंग हियर, दिस इज योर academic environment. Academic environment, and this is basically what? This is, it is working in a larger socio-cultural environment. Socio-cultural environment. So there is input from the socio-cultural environment and there is output. Can you understand this system? And now if I go into this academic environment is what? One sub part of socio-cultural system, or academic system is a sub part of the socio-cultural system. ठीक है? Now if it is also system always has what? Components. So if I break it into components, can I say that there would be a component of geography, there would be component of economics, social science, political science, geology, and so on. And these are all, can we say, interlinked to each other, many others. ठीक है? So it is all working as a system. Within there is a big system, society. Society's one subsystem is academics, and within academics one subsystem is geography. So if there is change within geography, either it would have come from some change which occurred in the environment of geography, or this change would have come from the overall change in academics, or this change would have come from overall change in the society. बात समझ में आई what we are saying? Tell me fast. ठीक है? We will see that this change which occurred, it was actually outcome of all these three factors. There was change in society, socio-cultural system had changed, there was change in the academic environment, and there was change within geography environment as well. ठीक है? So if I talk about, first I am starting from the bigger environment and I will go to the lower. Material में थोड़ा उल्टा है. Material में first environment which is written is geography environment के बारे में लिखा हुआ है, and then it is the academic environment, change which occurred in academic environment, and then it is the social environment. But I am going in reverse. I am starting from social and I am going in this direction. ठीक है? So let us see what was the change in socio-cultural environment. Change in the socio-cultural environment. So tell me, can I say that society just before this period witnessed Second World War. It witnessed Second World War, and in this Second World War it was found that only few disciplines could directly contribute to war efforts. Directly contribute to war efforts. For example, like if I talk about meteorology, it was very useful in the aircraft, the Air Force war which was there. Similarly, discipline of geology was very useful in identifying suitable locations for digging trenches, etc. etc. ठीक है. So number of things, such type of phenomena was seen. Physics had its own help in number of mechanisms. Chemistry, so much helpful. Biology, biological sciences, human sciences, so much useful. ठीक है. But when it came to geography, particularly human geography, contribution was negligible. Contribution was negligible in the war efforts. So in such a scenario, the geography's status as a discipline began to be questioned. So status as a discipline, if it is not able to contribute to the society, what was need to keep on funding people to study this. ठीक है. Began to be questioned in post-war period. In many universities, it was dropped as a discipline. So very famous is the story of University of Washington, and it was found that here Ackerman was one of the readers which was present there, and he was the main chair of human geography. So in 1948, it is story of 1948, and here there was discipline of geology. All these were group of environmental sciences. So there were some funds which came for research, and one day the chair of geology, who was MP Billing, so chair of geology came to office and found out that there were some research funds which had been given to human geography, to the part which was guided by Ackermann for some research in human geography. And he became so much angry that he started shouting that those funds were kept for very, very relevant research, which was going to be very beneficial for our society. Why it was diverted to human geography? Outcome of all this was that next day, geography as a discipline lost its status of discipline. And this type of phenomena was going on not only in Washington, in several universities of Anglo-America. So what was the outcome of this? Outcome of this was geography began to experience a phase of crisis. Entered into a phase of crisis, and this phase of crisis can rightly be referred to as the crisis of identity. So during this period, geographers began to face a crisis of identity. Okay? So there was huge pressure from society towards the geographers to ultimately do what? To change something. Okay? To bring some changes in geography so that geography ultimately becomes a relevant discipline. Okay? And if you want to just have an analogy of what would have went through the minds of geographers during that period, tell me, have we seen that geographers always have admired their way of study, that was the regional way of study? Yes or no? Most of the geographers have admired that the spatial way, the regional way is the most suitable way. And that is the crux of geography, that is the essence of geography. Okay? And many of them were actually aware that what they were doing was very difficult. It was quite very difficult. Suppose if I give you a phenomena, and suppose this is the phenomena, and here this is the phenomena. Okay? And what is there? This is the actual phenomenon. Now tell me, you are being given a task to study and understand this phenomenon. One way of understanding is, easy way of understanding is, I study it through parts. I decode each and every part, take one part at a time and study that, and ultimately what will happen? I will be, if I take one part, it would be more easy than studying the whole phenomena. Okay? It is the easier part. What is the difficult part? Is study it as a whole. ठीक है. So see, in this easy part, it is why we are saying it is easy, because you are studying individual elements at a time. So it becomes easy to comprehend. But what is the negative? What is the shortcoming of this? Shortcoming is, we know that in real world, what happens? Sum of parts is not equal to whole. We know very well in real world, whole is always greater than sum of its parts. Yes or no? We all have studied chemistry. So we know that hydrogen has different properties, oxygen has different properties, but when they combine, a totally different outcome, water, emerges. Can you understand what I am saying? Whole is always greater than sum of its parts. So although this method is easy, it would give outcomes more fast. But we will never be sure that we'll actually fully comprehend the reality. So what is the second way, the more difficult way? So in a way, can I say geographers were, in this form, geographers were more idealistic from other scientists. They were more idealistic from other scientists in that they were trying to understand the whole reality. And if you are following geographers' way, tell me, is it bound, don't you think that it is bound to take longer than the other sciences? Don't you think that it is bound to take more time than other sciences? Yes. But now the problem in front of the geographers was what? That they were facing a crisis of identity. So it is something like you are preparing for civil services घर में, and 1-2 साल हो गए, result is not coming maybe due to some reasons or whatever be the reason, and you are thinking ki ideally I am studying and all those kind of things. You know that ultimately result will come because the way I have studied, it is going to produce outcomes. But it frequently happens that parents, family members begin to question कि कर क्या रहा है, 2 बार से प्रीलिम्स नहीं हुआ, what is this? So similar thing was at that time being faced by geographers. They had to ultimately show some results. Like for example, same thing happened with me when I was preparing. I should have ideally given my first attempt in 2005. But I gave my first attempt in 2007. And 2 years I didn't appear for the exam. And it was like my father became very angry on me and ultimately, कि exam क्यों नहीं दे रहा? I was not giving exam because I really felt that my mains is not prepared. And in UPSC, even in prelims, 75% is your mains. If you are well prepared in mains, then only you should be thinking about writing the prelims. Otherwise, there is a chance that maybe you will never qualify. And it very frequently happens with the students. Some of them luckily scrap through prelims and then they never qualify for mains because they never prepared in that way. So something like this was being faced by geography in this period. So they were facing a kind of crisis of identity. So जैसे students के साथ होता है तो ultimately because of the pressure, just to show कि we are doing something, they would also giving some other exams, SSC का exam, PCS का exam, which are comparatively easier to crack. So उसमें results आने के chances बढ़ जाते हैं. So something similar also came to the mind of geographers. कि let us adopt a method through which we can at least for the short period show that we are science. We will pursue our long-term goals later on. And this short-term method they adopted was quantitative revolution. Can you understand what I am saying here? And it is very, very clear from the number of statements which later many of the scholars gave, like B.J. Berry, if you talk about, very famous quantitative revolution geographer. He wrote later on, after in late 60s, he wrote very clearly that the revolution has outlived its age. That means he was very clear from first day that there was a specific objective of the revolution. And what was the specific objective of revolution? To save the status of geography as a discipline. And in 2 decades it was done. And once it was done, it was time for geography to explore new things, to pursue that idealism, to pursue that synthesis. Okay? So can you get what I am saying here? So that is how the society, if you talk about, was ultimately affecting. So इसमें लिखा हुआ है, in post-World War period, relevance of geography as a discipline was questioned. It was found that natural sciences had more to offer in the war efforts compared to social sciences like geography. Thus, the status of geography as a discipline came under threat. In fact, geography as a discipline was dropped from many universities. 1948, it was not Washington, it was Harvard actually, sorry. Geography department at Harvard was closed. Ackerman was reader here and he was affected. As a result of these factors, there was emergence of quantitative revolution in geography. So there was crisis of identity being faced by geography. So that is one thing. Now, once geographers were facing this crisis of identity, they would look for which approach or method to adopt to avert this crisis. And luckily at that time there was change in academic environment also being seen. There was a change in the academic environment also taking place. And this academic environment change also affected geography as a discipline. And what was this change? We know that since 1930s, there was emergence of logical positivism. And geographers saw that some of the social sciences had adopted logical positivism and were able to ultimately save their status. They were able to get better status, more respectful status. For example, one of those social sciences was economics. So there were many other disciplines, sister disciplines, which were already getting affected by logical positivism. So if they were getting affected by logical positivism, like sociology was one of them which was affected by that. So they could very clearly see that how logical positivism had brought change in the status, elevation of the status of these sister disciplines. So can I say, with the success of these sister disciplines with respect to logical positivism, wouldn't geographers would have also been motivated? Tell me. Don't you think geographers would have been motivated? Yes. So they would have adopted this logical positivism. So one factor which led to emergence was this emergence of logical positivism. So you see, in the post World War, academic environment was also influenced by philosophy of logical positivism, which argued for adoption of scientific methodology by social sciences as well. It appeared to be very prospective future for social scientists who always suffered and were given a second-rate citizenship in universities compared to the natural scientists. So they were looking for something, they were trying to find out something which can be helpful, and they found out that was already there in the form of logical positivism. So this was one thing which affected. And third, very important, was the case of geographical environment. Geographical environment was also undergoing a change. So there were people like Carl Sawyer, like Hartshorne, etc. So many were there, Whittlesey, Ackerman, so many of these geographers were present. But many of these, like Sawyer, if you talk about like Hartshorne, they were getting old already. And there was emergence of new geographers to the scene, a new fresh blood. And fresh blood is more like more enthusiastic, wants to do something more, wants to ultimately break the barriers, create its own identity. So actually what happened, there was emergence of some such young blood, which ultimately became the pioneer for the spread of quantitative revolution in geography. Okay? So this is here what was happening. So even within geographical environment, geography academic environment, there was change taking place. And this change also promoted the origin of quantitative revolution. So quantitative revolution originated in post-World War II period. During the Second World War, number of geographers including Hartshorne were recruited to become part of the war efforts in USA. They were recruited into organization referred to as Office of Strategic Services. This same Office of Strategic Services later became CIA. They were charged with collecting and analyzing information and data for formulating suitable policy for national security. And it was here the first occasion when geographers were introduced to a new kind of social scientific inquiry that emphasized science much more than social. Here more it was about information and data collection and processing of the data. It had important influence on many young geographers, which later became the forebearers of quantitative revolution or pioneers of quantitative revolution, including Edward Ackerman, E.L. Ullman, C.D. Harris. All these were part of this Office of Strategic Affairs. We'll see these were the people ultimately who became the torch bearers of quantitative revolution later on. Okay. So can we now be able to write about the origin of quantitative revolution? Tell me. What were the factors that led to origin of quantitative revolution? So these were the three main factors which led to the origin of quantitative revolution. Now let us talk about the development of quantitative revolution. Development of quantitative revolution. Now, when we are talking about any revolution, tell me, can I say revolution is an idea? Yes or no? Or I can also say it is an information. Yes or no? It is an idea or information. And there is a theory of how idea or information spreads or diffuses in space. And this was given by Heggerstrand later on, and it is referred to as diffusion of information or innovation. Diffusion of information or innovation. It was given by Torrance Heggerstrand. Hagerstand. So if you talk about Torrance Hagerstand, what he simply says that diffusion of information is always occurs in stages. Occurs in stages. And how it occurs? It is something like this. So on this side there is rate of diffusion of information or innovation, and here is time. So he says that it always follows a curve like this. So in the first stage it is slow process and there is less people who are adopting it. So this is the first phase. There is a second phase and there is a third phase. So first phase it is slow and here it is adopted by pioneers. It is mostly adopted by pioneers. In the second stage, it is further divided into two parts. There is presence of early adopters and late adopters. And in the last phase, there will be presence of laggards. There is presence of laggards. Laggards are the people who are like very rigid and they don't want to adopt the idea. So always any information spread, it always takes this form. Okay? It will always be a curve. You can change the shape of this curve, but you cannot change the nature of this curve. So for example, suppose there is like this. I can make it like this, or it can be even like this. But it will always be what? It would always be a curve. For example, tell me, like today, can I say with use of information technology, have we shortened the time taken for diffusion of information? Yes or no? With IT, emergence of information technology, in the past, can I say that it would have been more like this, too much slow? Because the spread was from person to person. It would have been very, very slow. So in ancient times, this would have been the way, ancient medieval periods of information diffusion. Okay? So this is basically what Hagerstand says. Also he says that when this diffusion occurs, in space this diffusion is never uniform. In geographical space, the diffusion is never uniform. So suppose if I talk about geographical space, इससे पहले एक और चीज, just pioneers, you understand what are pioneers? Pioneers are the people who are the ones who very quickly adopt the idea, who are the people who are very progressive minded, and they are the people who are risk takers. ठीक है? Risk takers. So for example, guidance का ही देख लो. When I started my classes were equally good in all the time. Even in 2015, they were of very high quality like they are today. but I had very less number of people in my classes during that time. And however, there were some pioneers who thought that it would be worthwhile to attend classes in guidance. Like I still remember Prajit was one of them who got 2016-18 87 rank, and I think his marks were at that time 293 marks he got. So these pioneers, now when they ultimately became successful, and when they started to tell people about the story of their success, there were a number of adapters which came on, and number of students continued to increase. Okay, so can you understand who are pioneers and who are adapters? Laggards are the people, like they are the ones who don't want to change, very rigid to change. Such people are referred to as laggards. Adapters का simple story होता है, they are motivated by the success of other people. Once they see that there are success stories, then they get confidence to take the risk. Otherwise, they'll have less confidence to take the risk. Okay. So, if you talk about here, in space how there is diffusion taking place, he says that it is never uniform. Always diffusion occurs in clusters. Clusters, some places would have diffusion, while others there would be only some individuals who would be there. Then what will happen? In the second stage, what will happen? New clusters would develop. Ultimately, in the third phase, there will be more clusters which would develop. But can you see that diffusion will never be complete in geographical space? Why it would never be complete? Due to two type of barriers. One is the environmental barriers, and second would be socio cultural barriers. So, environmental barrier like mountainous areas, very far reaching areas, you cannot, information would be very difficult to reach there. So, environmental barriers can be there. Socio-cultural barriers, people have their own value system, belief system, unko kitna bhi you tell them, and it would be like you are giving your head on stone, but they'll not understand. So, there would be socio-cultural barrier as well. But this is the basic theory of diffusion. नाउ टेल मी, जब भी हमें मूवमेंट्स के बारे में बताना हो, रिवोल्यूशंस के बारे में बताना हो, और लाइक हम इसी मॉडल को यूज करेंगे लेटर ऑन इन पेपर 2 व्हेन वी विल टॉक अबाउट ग्रीन रिवोल्यूशन, हाउ ग्रीन रिवोल्यूशन डेवलप्ड इन नंबर ऑफ स्टेजेस. सो व्हेनेवर वी हैव टू टॉक अबाउट द स्प्रेड ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन, टेक्नोलॉजी, इनोवेशन, can we say that this can be very suitable model which we can use to ultimately make what we are writing more scientific, more logical? Yes or no? ठीक है. But one thing you have to understand, when you are using a theory or model, what is the role of theory and model? Use of theory and model, it is what? It is just to provide a framework, for the content to be written. Framework, logic for the content to be written. Otherwise, our content might be just a description, or it might be very haphazard. So what it does, it provides a framework, logic to what we are writing. And this is the role of the theoretical models, theory or models or concepts that we will be using. ठीक है. If I write, अगर मैंने जो अभी तुम्हें यहाँ पढ़ाया, if I have been asked to write about development of quantitative revolution and I start writing pioneers, early adapters, late adapters, laggards, can I say that I am writing about theory? I am not writing about quantitative revolution. So this mistake you will never do. In 500 plus, problem is time is very less. So I use many such ways of writing in answers, and I teach the students. Many times students misinterpret what I am trying to say, and this is the main misinterpretation that they do. They forget the content and overemphasize writing the theory, and this becomes a very fatal mistake, very, very fatal mistake. Can you get what I am saying here? They forget that here. अभी मैंने तुम्हें देखो, why did I so much explained this model in depth? Why here I explained this model in depth? The reason for it was because I knew that you didn't know about diffusion of information theory. ठीक है, इसलिए मैंने तुम्हें यहां पे समझाया. That is why I explained it here. But tell me, your communication to the examiner will it be same as my communication to you? Tell me fast. When you are writing your answers, you are communicating to the examiner. Will it be same as my communication to you? Definitely not. There your listener is a different person. Here my listeners are different people. ठीक है. So the same thing we can use here and see how we can say. According to Torrance Hagerstand, diffusion of any idea or innovation in space occurs in staged manner and is never uniform. अब मैंने यहां पर इसके बाद की जो चीजें लिखी है वो एक तरह से समझाने के लिए. इन द इनिशियल फेज ऑफ डिफ्यूजन ओनली फ्यू इनोवेटिव इंडिविजुअल्स adopt new idea. Only in later stages diffusion becomes fast, and by final stage diffusion again slows down as a result of saturation. Similar tendencies have been seen in development of quantitative revolution idea in geography. In fact, development has occurred in 3 stages. ठीक है. Now see, I have used the theory. In fact, if I wanted, I could have eliminated this part. ये जहां पर समझा रहा है कि इनिशियल फेज, मिडिल फेज, लेटर फेज, even I can eliminate when I'm actually writing the answer, because examiner already knows. So space occurs in staged manner and is never uniform. सीधे उसके बाद similar tendencies have been seen in development of geography, quantitative revolution idea in geography, which has developed in 3 stages. Can I say इतना काफी होता to provide a framework? Yes or no? So after that अगर मुझे कुछ और शो करना है तो showing diffusion of quantitative revolution in time and space, ऐसा कर सकते थे. और if I have to do this, tell me, could I have used this same diagram but with little changes? Yes or no? So can I say rate of diffusion of quantitative revolution in geography should have been written here. Here 1950, this period was like 1963, this is 1972. If you have to understand when it reached almost peak, it was 1969. After that there has only been decline. ठीक है? Can you understand? If I want phases को नाम भी दे सकता हूं, बट थ्योरी का यूज इससे ज्यादा नहीं होना चाहिए. And even when I am using the theory, you see my diagram is although same, but it is personalized according to quantitative revolution needs. ठीक है? So you see early stage. During this period, development of quantitative revolution was limited to few pioneers, pioneer universities and few pioneer scholars. See how cleverly here I am using the theory, but only theory is providing me framework to present my information about quantitative revolution. Can you understand? Tell me. So there were few pioneer universities and few pioneer scholars who were there, who were individually scattered. अगर देखोगे तो हमारे स्पेस वाले डायग्राम में in fact it is there. So these can be, can I say these can be said to be the pioneer universities and these individual pioneer scholars. ठीक है, बट वो स्पेस वाला बनाने की जरूरत नहीं है in this answer. So few pioneer scholars, these included first pioneer university, very important, was the Iowa University. And if you talk about Iowa University, here Schaefer had taught in Iowa University till his death in 1953. ठीक है, he was part of Iowa, he was teaching in Iowa University, but अक्सर it is said that चिराग तले अंधेरा. So where you are, there people actually hate you, and you don't have influence where you are there. ठीक है. So many times big people, very famous people, and जब वो अपने घर में जाते हैं तो उनकी जो हालत होती है वो धोबी के कुत्ते वाली होती है. So very limited, ultimately whole world is listening to them, but their own family members, their wife, children, they don't pay attention to their words. So something like this was the case with Schaefer. So his ideas had very limited influence in Iowa University in the development of quantitative revolution. Here the revolution was led by economic geographers under the leadership of, here the key pioneer scholar was Harold McCarty. McCarty and his associates demonstrated procedure through import of several methods from statistics. They modified these methods and developed very popular geographical methods of multiple regression and correlation. So you see quantification. Okay. Similarly, another was Wisconsin University. So quantitative revolution was led here. Another pioneer scholar was there, A.H. Robinson. And H. Robinson, who developed the statistical method of map correlation. Another important contributor was John C. Weaver, who developed the thesis of influence of climatic variables on barley yield using multiple regression and correlation method. ठीक है. So ये एक दो नाम है जो याद रखने हैं, यूनिवर्सिटीज एंड द नेम्स. Most important university, even if you forget others, this should not be forgotten. It was University of Washington. ठीक है. And here the main leader was William Garrison. So his full name is William Garrison. And here Garrison was the person who was influenced by the ideas of Schaeffer. So you remember what was the advocacy of Schaeffer, which he did in his third paper? Do you remember what he advised geographers to do in the third part of his paper? Did he advise to import models and theories from sister disciplines? Yes or no? He advised the geographers to import models and theories from sister disciplines. So he, along with Garrison, along with his students, developed quantitative revolution models in the field of urban and transportation geography. Mainly what they did, they adopted or imported these models. His students like B.L. Berry, William Bunge, D.F. Marvell became important pioneers of quantitative revolution. Here another important scholar was E.L. Ullman. Hegerstrand had taken guest lectures. He used to take guest lectures here in University of Washington and had huge influence. Number of things they did like, for example, B.L. Berry, what he did, he tested CPT model, that is central place theory models, applicability in the city of Seattle. So this CPT model was developed where? This was developed in economics, and it was imported into geography. Bunge wrote famous book Theoretical Geography. You can understand that before this period, nobody would have conceived even that such book can be written. There was hardly any theory of geography which existed. But influence of this revolution was so high, so many models and theories were imported and even developed within geography that now Bunge could write a full book on the theories of geography. And here geography means what? Human geography. Okay, so University of Washington, these are very, very important names. Similarly, there was another school which was there, social physics school. And the social physics school was not limited to a particular university, it was spread very number of places. Like one person who was a part and parcel of the social physics school was Hegerstrand. So, for example, Stewart was one person. So, it was involved in number of individuals from different universities. According to him, social physics deals with observation, processes and their revolution in terms of physical dimensions of society. In other words, it includes study of people, distance and time. Okay. So, social physics, number of models were developed like, distance decay model. It was developed by Hegerstrand. Other like, for example, gravity models. Okay. So that is the social physics school. Outside United States, there were two main centers which were there. One was located in Sweden and other was located in Britain. So in Sweden, here the important leader was Hägerstrand, and he developed models of diffusion of information and experimented with logarithmic transformation of space to create maps showing relationship between interaction and distance. In fact, he was the person who developed this distance decay principle. Distance decay principle. Second center was UK, where twins, and twins actually में ये twins नहीं थे, they are referred to as the twins of quantitative revolution. So this is twins of quantitative revolution. They were so much famous in spread of the ideas of quantitative revolution that they famously came to be referred as twins of quantitative revolution. And these two people were Peter Haggett and Richard Shorley. Haggett and Shorley. So they developed quantitative revolution, writing several books jointly like Models in Geography, Network Analysis in Geography. Peter Haggett wrote very famous book Locational Analysis in Geography. This is also part of our syllabus, locational analysis topic. Okay, so this was the first phase of development and it was limited to number of pioneers, universities and scholars. So वो pioneer university scholars के नाम याद रखने हैं. Then second phase was maturity phase and it was from 1963 to 1972. During this period, quantitative revolution virtually became a revolution and it actually spread, its actual spread took place in very fast manner in Anglo-American geography. The new geography spread to new areas such as University of Chicago, Michigan, Northwestern University, Ohio, Toronto, etc. So many places. This diffusion occurred through what were the methods of this? Seminars, special conferences, training camps in quantitative revolution and dedicated meetings to spread the revolution. So this was the mature phase of revolution and it became a virtual revolution, the term revolution during this period, because during this period it is very, some scholars believe that geographers were like in Anglo-American geography, they almost left all other methods and just focus upon these models and theories. Okay. But very clearly, as we have seen that spread of a revolution is never uniform. So even during this period, tell me, can I say that there would have been number of people who basically didn't leave other methods like the regional method? For example, it is important to note that even during this period, the revolution couldn't spread to all Anglo-America as there were several laggards. One of them was Carl Sawyer, whose cultural geography held out of revolution. In 1967, he wrote, "I am saddened by model builders and the system builders." Similar tendency was also seen in British geography, where regional geography was highly developed. By late 60s, however, large-scale criticism started to emerge against quantitative revolution, both from outside as well as from inside. For example, Bunge wrote in 1969 that the revolution has outlived its lifetime. Why he wrote this? What was the life of revolution? What was the objective of revolution? Tell me. What was the objective of revolution? Objective of revolution was to ultimately avert the crisis of identity which geography was facing and provide a kind of theoretical basis which geography lacked. Okay? So this had already been done by quantitative revolution. So it was time that geographers, he was meaning that it was time that geographers ultimately get rid of quantitative revolution. ठीक है. So that is why he wrote that the revolution has outlived its lifetime. As a result of dissatisfaction and criticism, quantitative revolution disappeared from intellectual fields of human geography by 1972. So by early 1970s, now nobody was talking about quantitative revolution. But then if it was so, why we are talking about the third phase, final phase? Because there is the revolution after 1972, the spirit of revolution has survived. And what was the spirit of revolution? Spirit of revolution was making laws, models and theories. Making laws, models and theories. ठीक है, दैट इज व्हाट इज द स्पिरिट ऑफ रिवोल्यूशन. नमन, फालतू के क्वेश्चन मत पूछो. नोबडी हियर सेड दैट लगार्ड्स इन दिस केस आर सीन इन नेगेटिव लाइट. नोबडी सेड दैट. किसने बोला? देयर आर पीपल हु आर रिजिड टू चेंज एंड मेनी टाइम्स चेंजेस आर positive. They are the need of the time, and someone still adheres to that. We can say that they are negative, they are laggards. ठीक है, like for example, you talk about many of the aspects of our society, like Khap Panchayat. Tell me, isn't Khap Panchayat a laggard who is unable to keep pace with the social development? Aren't they too much rigid? And why people will not say, people who are educated, who are enlightened, why they will not see them in negative light? It would depend upon from situation to situation. But nobody said that they are negative. There can be positive aspects of laggard also. Many times there have been fascism movements and there were laggards who didn't adhere to those fascist philosophies. So in that case, those laggards had positive role. So it would depend upon situation to situation. Nobody said that it is negative. Okay. So after 1972, spirit of revolution had survived in a newer version of positivism manifested in the form of behavioralism. So actually यहाँ पर behavioralism लिखा हुआ है. I would want you to correct this. You write, rather than behavioralism, you write behavioral approach or behavioral geography. So behavioral, here it should be written behavioral approach or geography. I'll explain why I'm doing this. Behavioral approach or behavioral geography. However, this form has experienced many changes. Okay, so see what actually we are saying here. Do you remember that example of the fridge? That ice cream in the fridge? So what did we learn about behavioral approach? What was the main objective of behavioral approach? In fact, इसको मैं इस तरह समझाता हूँ. You'll better understand. ठीक है. So what was the objective of quantitative revolution? To make universal laws and theories. ठीक है. This was the objective of quantitative revolution. This was objective, can I say it was guided by positivism? Tell me yes or no. Its objective was guided by positivism to make universal laws and theories. Method, we will see that they followed a deductive method. Deductive method, scientific method, but it was deductive method. Behavioral approach was guided by same. It was also positivistic in its method. So it was also, it adopted same thing, to make universal laws and theories. But method for it wanted different method. And what was the method it wanted? It used another scientific method. It believed that inductive method is better. Inductive method. Humanistic approach, इसको भी reject कर दिया. उसका objective was not positivism. Its objective was basically what? Its objective was phenomenology. ठीक है. So both these are what? Here both these are guided by nomothetic objective, while humanistic was ideographic. ठीक है. और इसने मेथड भी दूसरे हैं. विल टॉक अबाउट ह्यूमनिस्टिक मेथड्स लेटर ऑन. ठीक है. ठीक है. सो कैन यू अंडरस्टैंड why we are saying that the spirit of revolution outlived? In the form of behavioral approach. In fact, the people who were belonging to the behavioral approach, they were no one, they were basically these same people who were earlier supporters of quantitative revolution, and later ultimately what happened? They became behavioral approach supporters. So it is something like कि earlier they were very rigid. नहीं, it will be done like this only. But when there was severe criticism, they tried to find a middle path. Okay, we will include behavior in studies, subjective element in studies, and then we will reach to universal laws, models and theories. ठीक है. Can you understand what we are saying? So it was something like this. So like for example, abhi suppose there are so many corrupt politicians which are there right now, part of the ruling party, BJP, and something, suppose tomorrow there is a fall of BJP as a party, वो क्या करेंगे? Today they are very rigid in their ideology, but उनका मेन काम तो मतलब ऑब्जेक्टिव उस आइडियोलॉजी से मतलब नहीं है उनको. दे डोंट केयर अबाउट हिंदू एंड ऑल दोज थिंग्स. देयर मेन एस्पेक्ट इज टू अर्न मनी, टू डू करप्शन. सो व्हाट दे वुड डू, वो जा करके किस में मिल जाएंगे? देयर इज अनदर, वो मिडिल वाला करप्ट पार्टी इज देयर, एंड दैट मिडिल वाला करप्ट पार्टी, यू नो, इट इज वेरी वेल कांग्रेस. वो दोनों एक ही भाई भाई हैं. देयर इज नॉट मच डिफरेंस. ओनली थिंग इज कांग्रेस वे ऑफ डूइंग इज मोर लाइक less extreme than the way of BJP. Many things which BJP is doing, Congress leaders are very happy because they wanted to do that for quite long time. Many things, the privatization etc. And now they are happy कि जो काम राहुल जी के सर पे आता वो पहले ही हो गया. तो अब क्या होगा कि राहुल जी, when he becomes prime minister, it would be so much easy for him. ठीक है. So whatever, I'm just giving a kind of analogy to make you understand how behavioral approach was in a way simply a new version of quantitative revolution, who were attacked, so much attacked that they had to go little bit on back, they had to go on back foot and accept some of the ideas which were there from the humanistic behavioralist groups. Okay? And there came the emergence of behavioral approach. Now, why I corrected there from behavioralism to behavioral approach? Simple thing was because there is difference between behavioralism and behavioral approach. When we are saying behavioralism, always you remember ism, where it is coming. Ism is what? It is philosophy. Philosophy. So, when we are talking about behavioralism, can I say it is a philosophy which favors or prefers study of behavior of people. Yes or no? So that is what is behavioralism. Now tell me, can I say I can study the behavior of people using two different methods? I can go for a nomothetic way of studying the behavior. I can study the behavior in ideographic way. Yes or no? So nomothetic वाला क्या बन जाएगा and ideographic वाला क्या बन जाएगा? Who will tell me? Which represents nomothetic and which represents ideographic? Nomothetic became, these were the behavioral approach or simply behavioral geography. And ideographic, would be, it was humanistic approach. ठीक है? So that is the basic difference between the nomothetic or behavioral approach and humanistic approach. That is why we corrected there. वहाँ पर behavioralism लिखा हुआ था, but it should have been behavioral approach or behavioral geography. So, however, this form has experienced many changes. For example, it was not averse to inclusion of normative questions of human beings. Moreover, it uses inductive methodology now. So, now it includes study of behavior. Subjective aspects are also included, and its methodology has also changed to inductive. However, the continuity can be seen in that its primary objective was positivistic, that is, construction of grand theories, models and laws. Grand theories, models and laws. So, this is how the quantitative revolution has developed, and in a way, because behavioral approach lives, the spirit of quantitative revolution still lives within geography. Are we clear about this? Last point which I said. But very clearly the supporters have declined. The rate with which it grew first, it is no more. ठीक है? So this is quantitative revolution. कल इसको कंटिन्यू करेंगे. And locational analysis tomorrow, very important topic because it is something which is not given in many of the books. System analysis भी we'll try to cover. So these are all part and parcel of this. System analysis is not actually part of perspectives, it is part of models and theories. But because it belongs here, so I have included here as a part of with quantitative revolution. We'll learn it and we'll see that how many of the aspects are related. और इसके बाद वो question मुझे याद दिलाना, region as a system. Then we'll also talk about that. Okay, so I'll stop for today. Good night to all of you.